The Chunin exam began. Naruto walked away. No ranks, no approval. Power follow him anyway. So welcome back to my channel, guys. Today we are going to see what if Naruto refuses to take the Chunin exam Harem. So let's begin.
Anger burned hotter than chakra. Naruto Uzumaki stood rigid in the training field, jaw tight, eyes sharp. Nothing like the grinning idiot everyone expected. The smile he'd worn for years, the loud bravado, the reckless enthusiasm, it all felt brittle now. Like glass stretched too thin. He'd always known this moment would come. The day the mask would crack. He just hadn't expected it to be forced. 2 days, Naruto said quietly, dangerous calm coating every word. You signed us up 2 days before the Chunin exams. The pressure around him wasn't visible, but it was there, dense, volatile, pressing outward like a storm looking for an excuse to break. His chakra leaked not in wild bursts, but in controlled, simmering waves. Across from him, Kakashi Hitaki lifted a hand to the back of his head, eye curved in that infuriating smile. Timing is important in the shinobi world. That's not an answer, Sasuke snapped, sharing Naruto's glare. His fists were clenched, knuckles pale. This wasn't competitiveness, this was calculation. And he didn't like the math. Sakura stood frozen between them, lips parted, pink hair stirring faintly in the charged air. The Chunin exams. The words echoed in her mind like a bell she wasn't ready to answer. You're underestimating yourselves, Kakashi said lightly. All 3 of you. Naruto let out a slow breath through his nose. You've shown us teamwork drills and chakra control, he replied. That doesn't prepare anyone for killing intent. For a moment, just a fraction of a second, Kakashi's visible eye sharpened. Then he vanished. No explanation. No reassurance. Just absence. Silence followed. Sakura rounded on Naruto instinctively, frustration finding an easy target. Why do you always talk like you know better than everyone else? Her fist connected. Hard. Naruto staggered, more from surprise than pain. He didn't yell. Didn't joke. He just stared at the dirt beneath his feet. Sasuke turned away without a word. When they were gone, Naruto remained alone in the field, the weight finally settling. The anger drained, leaving something colder behind. His apartment smelled faintly of instant noodles and cleaning solvent, controlled chaos. Naruto kicked the door shut and leaned against it, eyes closed. Chunin exams. He wasn't weak. He knew that. But he wasn't ready either, not for what those exams really were. Politics. Blood. Monsters wearing human faces. He moved through the apartment on autopilot, tossing his jacket aside, collapsing onto his bed. 3 shadow clones popped into existence without a sound. They looked at him. Really? One asked, arms crossed. Sleeping won't fix this, another said. Naruto groaned, rolling onto his side. I know. That's why I sent you. They hesitated, then vanished. Alone again. The darkness behind his eyelids shifted, and the world changed. Cold stone. Endless water. A massive presence. Well, the 9 tails rumbled, amusement dripping from every syllable. This should be entertaining. Naruto folded his arms, scowling at the towering bars of the seal. If you're here to laugh, don't. Oh, I'm here because you finally stopped lying to yourself. That hit harder than any punch. You're scared, the fox continued. Not of the exams. Of being exposed. Naruto clenched his fists. Shut up. You hide behind noise because silence forces you to think. And thinking leads to truth. Naruto swallowed. Then the fox leaned closer, red eyes narrowing. The Hyuga girl. Naruto's head snapped up. What about her? She watches you train. Carefully. Every flaw. Every habit. That's creepy. It's attention, the fox corrected. And she needs help as much as you do. Naruto hesitated. Images flickered in his mind. Pale eyes turning away, quiet footsteps fading when he noticed. Her father has given up on her, the fox said calmly. And you? You're about to walk into an exam designed to break people like her. Naruto felt something twist in his chest. She'll be there, the fox added. And if you don't change something, now, you'll both fall. Naruto stared at the bars, heart pounding. For the first time, the laughter was gone. Outside, thunder rolled, no clouds in sight. Naruto opened his eyes and realized the storm had already begun. Naruto let the jacket slip from his fingers. It hit the floor with a dull sound that felt heavier than it should have. For years, that orange fabric had been armor, loud enough to drown out whispers. bright enough to hide bruises no one was meant to notice. A declaration that he didn't care. Or at least, that was what he wanted the world to believe. But lies, even comfortable ones, eventually rot. He turned away from it. Instead, Naruto moved to the small mirror mounted above his sink. The reflection staring back wasn't the idiot the village loved to mock. His eyes were sharper now, blue darkened by thought, jaw set with something dangerously close to certainty. Facades keep you alive, he admitted silently. But they also keep you weak. The fox's words echoed in his skull like a brand. You are a liability. Naruto clenched the edge of the sink until his knuckles whitened. No, he muttered. Not anymore. The streets of Konoha were quiet at this hour, lanterns casting long shadows across empty walkways. Naruto moved through them without a sound. No shouting, no unnecessary leaps across rooftops. Every step was deliberate. He didn't head toward the training fields. Instead, he went higher. Hokage Rock loomed above the village, stone faces watching over everything below. Naruto stopped beneath the fort's monument, neck craning back. For the first time, he didn't look at it as a distant dream. He looked at it as a challenge. So you really were my old man? He whispered. No bitterness. No all. Just resolve. Guess I don't get the luxury of failing anymore. A soft crunch of gravel reached his ears. Naruto stiffened. Someone was there. He didn't turn immediately. He didn't need to. His senses, dulled for years by complacency, were finally awake. Hello? Naruto-kun. Hinata Hyuga stood a short distance away, hands clasped nervously in front of her, pale eyes wide with surprise. She hadn't expected him to notice her so quickly. Normally, he wouldn't have. That fact made Naruto's stomach twist. How long? He asked, voice calm. She flinched. I just got here. I swear. He turned to face her fully. In the dim lantern light, he could see it now. The tension in her shoulders, the way her stance favored caution over confidence, the faint bruising on her wrists hidden beneath her sleeves. The fox hadn't been exaggerating. Hinata wasn't weak. She was unprotected. Naruto exhaled slowly. You weren't spying, were you? Her face burned red. And no, I do watch sometimes, but only when you train, and only because. She stopped herself, mortified. Naruto studied her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he bowed his head. Sorry. Hinata froze. Yeah. I should have noticed sooner, he said quietly. That you were struggling too. Her breath caught. No one ever said things like that to her. They either ignored her or corrected her. I'm not good at this, Naruto continued. Talking. Leading. But I'm done pretending I don't care. He met her eyes. I'm going to train. For real this time. Not academy games. Not Kakashi's half lessons. The kind of training that changes you. Hinata swallowed. And why are you telling me this? Because the fox was right, Naruto replied. You're tied to me whether I like it or not. And if I walk into the Chunin exams like this, he gestured vaguely at himself, I'll drag you down too. Her fingers trembled. So, he said, voice steady, train with me. Hinata's eyes widened in shock. Tea together? Yes. The word left no room for argument. I don't know how to be gentle, Naruto added. And I won't slow down. If you agree to get stronger. No excuses. For a moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, hesitantly, Hinata straightened her posture. I want to change, she whispered. Even if I'm scared. Naruto smiled. Not the loud grin. The real one. Good, he said. Fear means you're finally paying attention. High above them, hidden in the darkness, a single Byakugan watched the scene unfold, unblinking, calculating. Hayashi Hyuga turned away from the edge of the roof, expression unreadable. So, he murmured, the Jinchuriki moves at last. Far below, Naruto felt a chill crawl up his spine. Something had shifted, and the village was beginning to notice. Naruto had never worn bright colors because he liked them. He wore them because noise was easier than silence. Orange meant look at me. It meant villagers couldn't pretend he wasn't there when he sabotaged their stalls or painted their walls. Even hatred was recognition, and for a long time, that had been enough. But that version of him was finished. Standing in his room, Naruto opened his dresser and ignored the familiar blaze of fabric folded inside. His hand passed over it without hesitation and settled on darker clothes instead. Black cargo pants. Practical, durable, quiet. He tugged them on, kept the dark blue shirt, but after a brief pause, tore the sleeves clean off. He studied himself once more. Less visible, less loud, more real. Real ninja don't dress to be remembered, he muttered. They dress to survive. A faint pop echoed behind him. Yo, boss, one shadow clone said, eyeing him up and down. Since when do we look competent? Another clone stepped forward, clutching scrolls. Training logs. Wind theory notes. Also, turns out balancing kunai like this helps focus. The third clone demonstrated, kunai trembling but controlled. Naruto stared for a second, then nodded. Huh, good to know. He dispelled them without ceremony. Knowledge flooded in, hours of practice, failed attempts, minor breakthroughs. The kind of progress that didn't look impressive, but stacked. The sun was already bleeding into the horizon. TCH, Naruto clicked his tongue. Wasted too much time thinking. He armed himself quickly and paused at the door. Closed his eyes. Slowed his breathing. Calm movement. Calm mind. When he stepped onto the rooftops, he didn't leap wildly like before. His strides were smooth. Efficient. His senses stretched outward. And for the first time, he noticed the hostility aimed his way. A bottle hurled from an alley. A curse muttered under a breath. He dodged without breaking pace. That alone told him everything. By the time he reached Training Ground 7, night had fully settled. So, Naruto said quietly, surveying the empty field. What now? The fox's presence rolled through his mind, amused. You train. Naruto snorted. Helpful. I will show you something, the QB continued. A technique born from intent, not desperation. Images flooded Naruto's mind. A lone shinobi. Surrounded. Wind screaming outward as motion became violence. Enemies lifted, torn apart by speed and precision. Naruto watched carefully. Tornado barrage, the fox said. Your father's work. Naruto didn't speak for a long moment. Then, blunt as ever, I can't do that. Explain. I don't have wind training. I'm not fast enough. And I don't use swords. The fox's grin was feral. You have clones. Naruto exhaled slowly. Right. Hundreds of shadow clones exploded into existence. Training blurred into pain, repetition, and breathless focus. Wind chakra cut skin. Clones failed. Dissolved. Returned with fragments of understanding. Doubt crept in. Am I really his son? Naruto looked up at the moon, sweat dripping from his chin. Thinking won't make me stronger. He clenched his fists. After this, he said aloud, I make my own move. The fox laughed, low and pleased. Morning came quietly. Naruto lay asleep amid scattered steel, body aching but alive. The ground told a story, slashes, embedded blades, snapped wire. A figure crept closer. Too close. Naruto moved. In a blink, the intruder was face down, arm twisted, kunai hovering at their spine. He, the clone said nervously. Morning, boss. Naruto released him. Good attempt. The clone vanished. Naruto stretched, yawning. An hour of sleep. Not enough, but more than yesterday's Naruto would have managed. Progress. He sealed away the weapons and headed back toward the village. That was when he heard crying. And Sakura's voice. Naruto sighed. Of course. The scene was already tense when he arrived. A masked boy from another village had Konohamaru by the collar. Sakura was furious. The Sand siblings lingered nearby, uneasy. Naruto didn't shout. Drop him. The words landed soft. A clone appeared behind Kankuro instantly, kunai kissing skin. The older genin froze. Before anything else could escalate, a pebble struck his wrist. Sasuke dropped from the trees like gravity owed him a favor. Then, pressure. Killing intent like sand grinding bone. Gaara. Naruto didn't flinch. Gaara, he said calmly, ignoring the tension rippling through everyone else. Killing won't prove you exist. The fox's voice guided him. Say this. You're letting the monster decide who you are. Silence. Then Gaara smiled. Meet me, he said. If I'm bored, I kill you. Naruto crossed his arms. Fair. The Sand siblings retreated, shaken. Sakura stared at Naruto like she didn't recognize him. Hey, Konohamaru said, grinning. That was awesome. Naruto smiled faintly. Then Sakura opened her mouth. Naruto didn't argue. He just turned away. Real ninja dress for battle, he said over his shoulder. Not attention. He left. Behind him, confusion lingered. Above him, unseen eyes followed. And somewhere deep within, the fox smiled. The mask was gone. Now came the consequences. Naruto had learned one thing over the years. People were predictable, especially his teammates. Sasuke wouldn't ask questions. He never did. In his mind, Naruto either mattered or he didn't. And lately, Sasuke had been too busy polishing his own sense of superiority to care what the so-called dead last was doing after hours. Sakura would follow Sasuke. Always. Which meant neither of them would question how Naruto had appeared behind Kankuro earlier that day, or why he wasn't back at the apartment, panicking or boasting like usual. That left only one variable. Hinata. Naruto finished his last set of push-ups and pushed himself upright, rolling his shoulders as sweat slid down his temples. The training ground was quiet, moonlight spilling between stone pillars and broken shadows. He didn't look toward her hiding place. Didn't need to. She's there. She always was. He hid his smile and formed several shadow clones, spreading them out across the field. The sound of light sparring filled the clearing, controlled strikes, measured footwork. Chakra kept deliberately low. Under Hinata's gaze, Naruto felt calm. No villagers. No interruptions. No thrown bottles or whispered curses. Just training. Minutes passed before he finally stopped, stretched, and turned his head slightly toward one of the pillars. You know, he said casually, you can come out if you want to train before the exams. Silence. Then, a faint, panicked squeak. Naruto laughed softly and walked closer, boots crunching over gravel. Hinata stepped out from behind the stone like a deer caught in lantern light, face burning red, pale eyes wide and glassy. She froze. Completely. Naruto blinked. Hinata's brain had short-circuited. For most people, this would have been awkward. For Hinata Hyuga, the shyest girl in the village, it was catastrophic. Her longtime crush was standing right in front of her, talking to her. Calm, different, real. Her knees wobbled. A sound escaped her throat, soft, breathless, unintentional. And then her vision tunneled. Oh, shit, Naruto muttered as she tipped forward. He caught her reflexively, arms locking around her before she hit the ground. She mumbled something incoherent against his chest, face flushed, breath uneven. Naruto-kun. Naruto stiffened like he'd just picked up a live explosive. Okay. Nope. This is not training. He gently carried her to a nearby tree and sat her down against the trunk, backing away like he'd triggered a trap seal. I should have seen that coming, he muttered. Almost as bad as Sakura, just quieter. He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. Naruto liked Hinata. He really did. She was kind, earnest, nothing like the people who looked at him with disgust or expectation. But she was complicated, and he didn't understand that kind of quiet fear yet, the kind that wrapped around your chest and stole words right out of your mouth. He turned back to his training, giving her space. A soft sound pulled him back. Naruto glanced over as Hinata stirred, blinking sleepily. In Naruto-kun? He smiled, dispelling the remaining clones and walking back over. Hey, you're awake. She sat up quickly, hands clutching her sleeves, eyes darting over him. He did look different. Less orange. Less loud. More serious. If I faint again, Naruto said lightly, dropping down beside her. We're never getting any training done. Her blush intensified. She stopped breathing. Naruto-kun, she tried. Nothing came. Her thoughts tangled. 1,000 words fought to escape, but none survived the journey to her lips. She wanted to talk, to ask, to explain, to be brave. But courage wasn't a switch. It was a muscle she'd never been allowed to use. Tears welled up despite her efforts. Frustration. Shame. That familiar feeling of being too weak, too quiet, for the world she lived in. Naruto noticed immediately. Hey, he said softly. No teasing. No impatience. You don't have to force it. She looked at him, startled. We can just sit, he continued. Training doesn't always start with fists. Hinata nodded faintly, tears slipping free anyway. Naruto leaned back against the tree, staring up at the stars. We're both broken in different ways, he thought. And for the first time, he wondered, not how strong he could become alone, but how strong they might become together. Pathetic. The word carved itself into Hinata's chest as she ran. Her breath hitched, vision blurring as tears spilled freely now. No witnesses, no restraint. She hated herself for it. Hated how easily she broke. How a single moment, a single look, could unravel her so completely. She had tried. She really had. But when it mattered most, She froze. Father was right. Niji was right. Hanabi. And now, Naruto-kun must think so too. She couldn't change her clan if she couldn't even speak. Couldn't stand. Couldn't exist without shaking. What kind of heiress was that? What kind of kunoichi? Her chest burned as she pushed herself harder, desperate to outrun the thoughts chasing her. Naruto didn't move for several seconds after she vanished. His feet felt rooted to the ground. Hinata, he muttered, far too late. Only silence answered. Confusion washed over him first, raw and sharp. Then worry followed close behind, heavy and unpleasant. This wasn't like Sakura's yelling or Sasuke's cold silence. This felt different. Wrong. Yeah, the Ninetales rumbled, voice cutting through his thoughts. You messed that up, Kit. Naruto scowled. What did I do? Nothing. And that's the problem. She's hurting, the fox continued. Deeply. And that pain has nothing to do with you, and everything to do with how long she's been ignored. Naruto's fists clenched. He replayed the moment in his head. The tears. The way she fled without a word. Then tell me how to fix it, he snapped. The fox was quiet for a moment. This isn't something you can punch, burn, or out-train, it said finally. You'll have to figure this out on your own. Naruto swallowed. For the first time, brute force wouldn't help him. He almost chased after her. Almost. But the fox's earlier words echoed louder. Focus. With visible effort, Naruto forced himself back into motion. Training now. Answers later. If he lost control tonight, he'd lose more than time. He'd lose the resolve he'd just found. Later, he whispered to the empty field. I'll fix it later. Training resumed, but it was harsher now. More ruthless. 5 shadow clones formed without flair. They didn't joke. Didn't hesitate. They attacked. Naruto moved on instinct, body reacting faster than thought. Steel flashed. A clone vanished in smoke as his kunai struck true. Another fell to a precise kick. He blocked, twisted, countered, momentum flowing cleanly through each movement. Wind screamed. Futon, Kaze Yari. Compressed air tore forward, ripping through 2 clones instantly. Naruto barely had time to react before paper crackled. Explosive tags. His eyes snapped upward. Substitution. The final clone vanished in a violent blast. Naruto dropped from the tree, chest heaving. Good, the fox said approvingly. Efficient. No wasted movement. Naruto stared at the ground, sweat dripping from his chin. I won't master everything in time, he said quietly. So I'll prioritize. 2 solid techniques. 1 experimental. A pause. Agreed. Naruto nodded. That was enough. He created 50 more clones. And trained until doubt was beaten silent. Morning came faster than expected. Naruto stood at the academy gates, dark clothes clean but worn, posture calm. His eyes drifted over the crowd, not scanning for threats, but for one familiar presence. She wasn't there. Where the hell is he? Sakura's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Sasuke clicked his tongue. Probably overslept. Then Naruto stepped forward. Sakura turned, ready to yell, then stopped. Something about him felt off. Where have you been? She demanded. Naruto's gaze lifted slowly. For a split second, worry flickered there, raw, unguarded. Then it vanished. Training, he said simply. Kakashi appeared in a swirl of leaves moments later, eye narrowing slightly as he took Naruto in. You've changed, the Jonin noted lightly. Naruto didn't respond. Kakashi opened his mouth to continue, but Naruto cut him off, already walking toward the entrance. We're late. Sasuke followed without comment. Sakura hesitated, then hurried after them. Behind them, Kakashi watched silently. Something happened, he thought. And whatever it was, it forced Naruto to grow up. Inside the academy, somewhere beyond the noise and tension, Hinata Hyuga sat alone, hands clenched in her lap, eyes fixed on the floor. And when Naruto finally stepped into the exam hall, she felt it. Without looking up, she knew. The distance between them had changed, and whether it would break them or forge something stronger had yet to be decided. Sakura and Sasuke stared after Naruto as he walked ahead of them, his back straight, movements deliberate. Something was wrong. Not annoying wrong. Not Naruto being an idiot wrong. This was quieter than that. Kakashi watched the trio from behind, his single visible eye narrowing almost imperceptibly. Naruto wasn't bouncing, wasn't talking, wasn't provoking Sakura or challenging Sasuke. That alone set off alarms. Whatever happened, Kakashi thought, it wasn't small. But this wasn't the place. Well, Kakashi said lightly, forcing the familiar tone. Off you go. Try not to die. He vanished before either of them could respond. Sasuke turned and started toward the building without a word. Sakura followed, still glancing back at Naruto, as if expecting him to suddenly shout something stupid and familiar. He didn't. Inside the academy, Naruto stopped near the stairwell, eyes fixed down the hallway where a crowd of genin had gathered in front of a single door. Sasuke followed his gaze. Sakura opened her mouth. Naruto BA. Naruto moved. He grabbed her from behind, clamping a hand over her mouth before the shout could escape. Her eyes bulged in outrage. Stop, Naruto whispered sharply. You're drawing attention. Before either of them could respond, the Naruto holding her vanished in smoke. Sakura staggered back, fuming. That was a clone, Sasuke muttered, half amused despite himself. They followed the stairs upward. The real Naruto stood before another door, calm as still water. Baka, Sakura snapped, stomping toward him with her fist raised. What the hell was that? She swung. Missed. In the blink of an eye, her arm was twisted behind her back and she was pressed against the wall, Naruto's forearm pinning her shoulder. Not painfully, but firmly. Sasuke froze. Sakura went completely still. Don't waste your strength, Naruto said evenly. And stop hitting me. If you don't, I'll stop letting it slide. There was no anger in his voice. That scared her more than shouting ever had. Naruto released her and turned away like nothing had happened. Dobe, Sasuke said sharply, we're late. Why'd you drag us up here? Naruto pointed at the room number beside the door. That crowd downstairs? Wrong floor. Sensei said room 247. You don't survive by following groups blindly. Silence. Then Naruto opened the door and stepped inside. The room was already packed. Naruto scanned it instinctively and locked eyes with Gaara across the room. A brief nod. Returned, unnoticed by everyone else. Before Naruto could assess anything further, a blur of blonde and purple crashed past him. Sasuke Kun. Ino lashed on as Sasuke like gravity demanded it. Naruto didn't bother turning. Of course. Ino pig. Sakura screamed. Naruto sighed internally. Yep. Same chaos. Different day. Yo, Naruto. Shikamaru drawled as he wandered over, hands in his pockets. Didn't think you'd make it. Troublesome exam and all. Choji followed, already eating. Naruto gave them a small nod. Shikamaru was dangerous, not because of strength, but because he thought. Choji was a wild card. Ino, predictable. Looks like the rookie nine's all here. Kiba barked as he approached with Shino, Akamaru peeking from his jacket. Naruto acknowledged them with a glance. Then, hey, Choji said suddenly, pausing mid-bite. Where's Hinata? Naruto stiffened. He looked around. She wasn't there. She chose not to gather beforehand. Shino said quietly. She has changed. Naruto turned sharply. Changed how? Shino hesitated, a rare thing. You will see. That answer sat like a stone in Naruto's chest. Whoa, Kiba said, squinting. Naruto? Is that actually you? Naruto ignored him. Why were you dressed like that? Ino asked, finally detaching from Sasuke. Clothes, Naruto replied flatly. They work. He stepped away from the group and leaned against the wall, arms crossed. The looks followed him. He didn't care. Shino lingered a moment longer than the rest, studying Naruto with unreadable eyes. He's watching, Naruto realized. Me. Then, hey, a calm voice said nearby. You should keep it down. You're making it obvious you're first-timers. Naruto looked up. Gray hair, glasses, polite smile. Something felt wrong. Off. Too smooth. I'm Kabuto, the older genin added helpfully. Naruto committed the name to memory. Then the room erupted. Kabuto retching as a sound ninja loomed over him. Everyone's attention snapped away. Naruto used the distraction to move, quietly, closer to the Sand siblings. That's when a voice stopped him. Cold to ignore your friends. Naruto turned. The sound Kunoichi stood there, arms folded, eyes sharp. Cold to abandon your teammates in enemy territory, Naruto replied evenly. She smirked. Why aren't you with them? Naruto met her gaze, unflinching. Why are you watching me? The Kunoichi's smile widened slightly. Interesting. Very interesting. And somewhere in the room. Unseen, unheard. Hinata Hyuga tightened her fists, heart pounding. The exams hadn't started yet. But the fractures already had. We're not going to get answers if we just stand here questioning each other. The sound Kunoichi said, lips curling into a knowing smirk. Naruto exhaled softly. Fair. I'll answer yours, briefly. I've got better things to do than babysit anxious Jinin. Now you answer mine. She tilted her head, studying him openly. Because you're interesting. And kind of cute. Naruto snorted despite himself. Straightforward. Bold too, considering we're technically enemies. Not yet, she replied calmly. And besides, her expression shifted, sharpening. You're different. Naruto felt his shoulders tense. Different how? I don't know, she said slowly. You feel familiar. Like I've seen you somewhere I shouldn't have. Before Naruto could respond, an irritated shout cut through the room. Kin, get over here now. The girl, Kin, clicked her tongue. Duty calls. She gave Naruto a quick wave. Try not to die before I see you again. She disappeared back toward her teammates. Naruto frowned faintly. Fox, should I know her? No. The Ninetales replied after a pause. But your paths are more tangled than you realize. When it matters, I'll explain. Naruto didn't push. He had bigger problems. The atmosphere shifted as Marino Ibiki entered. The room went quiet, not because he demanded it, but because fear did the job for him. His scarred face and oppressive presence sucked the air from the space. The rules were laid out plainly. Written exam. 9 questions. A final 10th question. Naruto took his seat, 4C, and scanned the room. A low whistle sounded from the back. He followed the noise and froze. Hinata Hyuga walked in. No oversized jacket. No attempt to hide. Just her black undershirt and fitted pants. Posture stiff. Eyes forward. Naruto's brain stalled completely. Oh. He snapped his mouth shut as several genin snickered around him. Hinata didn't look at anyone. She found her seat, 4B, right beside him. Her presence hit harder than any killing intent. Naruto felt his chest tighten as she sat, hands folded neatly, eyes fixed on the desk. Hi, Hinata, he whispered. She glanced at him once. Not shy, not warm, empty. The look made something sink painfully in his gut. Then she looked away. Naruto swallowed. That hurt more than getting punched. The test began. Naruto scanned the paper once, twice, then frowned. This isn't a test. None of this had been taught. Not even close. This wasn't Genin-level material. It wasn't even fair. 2 possibilities surfaced instantly. Either they expected failure, or they expected something else. Naruto noticed a faint smudge near the corner of the page. A letter. Then another. No, right answers. Understanding clicked. They want us to cheat. Not sloppily. Not openly. Like shinobi. Ibiki's voice boomed, introducing the 10th question. Threats. Fear. Pressure. Naruto didn't flinch. When the option to quit was offered, hands shot up across the room. The rookies stayed seated. Everyone who remained has passed. Shock rippled through the room. Naruto didn't smile. He turned slightly toward Hinata. Whatever I did yesterday, he whispered. I'm sorry. Hinata froze. Her breath caught. He doesn't even know. And he's still apologizing. She turned toward him, lips parting. Crash. Glass exploded inward. A woman burst into the room like chaos given human form. Kanai pinning a banner to the wall behind her. What's up, chumps? She crowed. I'm Anko Mitarashi, and I'll be handling the second exam. The silence was deafening. Shino's insects chirped. Everyone glared at him. Anko winced. Too soon. Ibiki sighed. As always. Naruto leaned back slightly, eyes narrowing. The exams had truly begun. And whatever was breaking between him and Hinata, it wouldn't wait any longer. Anko's grin widened, sharp and unapologetic, the kind that promised pain and enjoyed it far too much. Well then, she drawled, eyes raking over the room full of genin. Looks like we've got a nice crowd. Not too many, not too few. Perfect. She turned toward the window, already halfway bored. Meet me at the entrance to the forest of happy kittens and rainbows in 30 minutes. Ibiki didn't even look surprised. You mean the forest of death? Anko's laugh echoed as she vanished in a blur. Exactly. A collective shudder ran through the room. Man, Shikamaru muttered, scratching his head. She's almost as scary as my mom. That earned a few nervous chuckles before everyone began filing out. Everyone, except Naruto and Hinata. Naruto watched the room empty, then turned to her, voice low. Hinata, I need to talk to you. She met his eyes. She wasn't avoiding him anymore. But she wasn't warm either. Something inside Naruto tightened. Yesterday, she said quietly, dropping the honorific from his name. I may have misunderstood things. I need time to think. The absence of Kuin hurt more than he expected. This is the first time you've really talked to me, Naruto said honestly, before he could stop himself. Hinata froze. Realization crossed her face, and regret followed close behind. She looked away, fingers curling at her sides. For what it's worth, Naruto continued, forcing himself to stay steady. I like you. A lot. If I made you doubt that, then I'm sorry. Hinata's lips trembled. A soft, broken laugh escaped her. I thought it was all in my head, she whispered. So I went home, and I told my father off. Naruto blinked. You what? I snapped, she admitted, wiping at her eyes. I thought if even you looked down on me, then nothing else mattered. And you know what happened? Her gaze sharpened. He acknowledged me. For the first time. Naruto didn't interrupt. I realized something then, she went on. If acting like a proper Hyuga is what it takes to be seen, then maybe that's what I need to become. Naruto exhaled slowly. She's not breaking, he realized. She's rebuilding. Don't choose, Naruto said suddenly. She frowned. What? Don't choose between me and your growth, he said firmly. Do both. Be my friend. Get stronger. Get your father's respect. You already proved you're not weak. You just needed to stand up for yourself. Hinata stared at him, stunned. It wasn't your fault, she said softly. I assumed things. I was scared. Naruto nodded. I was blind. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Hinata spoke again, quieter, but stronger. I can't pursue those feelings right now, she said. Not like before. I don't want to become someone who needs you to feel whole. I want to be useful, to myself first. Naruto felt the words settle deep. We're not compatible, she finished. He didn't argue. Instead, he smiled faintly. Then let's become compatible, he said, extending his hand. Together, as friends, until we're strong enough. Hinata hesitated, then took it. For now, she said gently, just friends. Naruto laughed under his breath. For now. She stepped back, a hint of her old shyness returning, but this time, it didn't own her. Try to keep up with the new me, she said, eyes glinting with challenge, before turning and walking away. Naruto stood there, stunned. Ibiki watched from the doorway, arms crossed. You realize, he said dryly, this exam might be easier than whatever that was. Naruto let out a tired breath. Yeah, he muttered. And that's saying something. The forest of death waited. But the real test had already begun. Naruto hated being right. The forest of death swallowed sound the moment they crossed the gate. Thick canopy blotting out the sun, air heavy with rot and damp earth. The moment his boots touched the soil, his instincts screamed. Wrong. Something is wrong. He didn't relax. Didn't chatter. Didn't rush ahead like the Naruto everyone expected. He listened. Behind him, Sasuke landed on a branch with sharp irritation written across his posture. Sakura followed, already glancing around nervously. Okay, Sakura hissed. Now you're officially freaking me out. You don't stop like that for no reason. Naruto crouched low, eyes scanning the forest floor, the trees, the shadows between shadows. This forest isn't just a survival test, he said quietly. It's a hunting ground. Sasuke scoffed. Obviously. No. Naruto snapped, sharper than intended. Not obviously to you. You're thinking about other genin. I'm thinking about predators. That got Sasuke's attention. Naruto closed his eyes for a brief second and reached inward, not to the fox's power, but to its senses. The world sharpened. And then he felt it. Cold. Ancient. Coiled. His eyes snapped open. Up, Naruto ordered. A fraction of a second later, killing intent crashed through the clearing like a tidal wave. Sakura gasped. Sasuke's Sharingan flared instinctively. The ground where Naruto had been crouching exploded, a massive serpent bursting upward, fangs snapping shut on empty air. Naruto was already moving. Scatter, he barked. Too late. A figure stepped out of the shadows, pale skin gleaming unnaturally, golden eyes locking onto Sasuke with unsettling hunger. Naruto's blood went cold. Snake. The presence pressed down harder than Zabuza ever had. This wasn't Genin level. This wasn't even Jonin level. This was something else. Well now. The stranger purred, voice slick and amused. This is delightful. Sasuke froze. Naruto stepped forward instantly, placing himself between the stranger and his team. You picked the wrong group, Naruto said, voice steady despite the ice crawling up his spine. The man's gaze slid to him and sharpened. Oh, a smile stretched too wide across his face. You're interesting. The fox stirred violently inside Naruto. That one, it growled, is dangerous. No shit. Naruto didn't wait. 5 shadow clones burst into existence, launching kunai and shuriken in overlapping arcs. Not to kill, but to test. The stranger didn't even dodge. He shed, his body stretching, warping, slipping out of the attacks like skin. Sakura screamed. Sasuke charged. Don't, Naruto shouted. Too late. The man moved. In the blink of an eye, Sasuke was airborne, slammed into a tree hard enough to crack bark. Naruto's vision went red. Get away from him. Wind chakra screamed through Naruto's veins as he formed seals faster than he ever had before. Futon. The attack never landed. A massive snake intercepted it, dispersing the technique harmlessly. The stranger laughed. Ah, the Jinchuriki, he murmured. How nostalgic. Naruto's heart stopped. He knows. The forest seemed to lean in closer. The man's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. You smell unfinished. Naruto planted his feet, kunai raised. Clones were forming around him despite the fear screaming in his head. I don't care who you are, Naruto growled. You're not touching my team. The stranger's smile widened. Such resolve, he said softly. Let's see how long it lasts. Far away, beyond the forest walls, Naruto's clone burst into the Hokage's office in a cloud of smoke. ANBU level threat in the forest of death, it shouted. Snake user. Killing intent off the charts. Back in the forest, the air twisted, and Naruto realized something terrifying. This wasn't part of the exam. This was a hunt, and they were the prey. Anko Mitarashi lounged against the railing, chewing on a dango stick as the forest of death loomed ahead of her like a bad memory. She had seen the exchange, the hesitation, the calculation, the clone. The blonde brat was far more entertaining than she'd expected. When the shadow clone approached her, calling her Anko-chan of all things, she nearly laughed. That kid's dead the next time I see him, she thought idly, though there was no real heat behind it. Let's go, the clone said. No explanation. No panic. Just certainty. Anko narrowed her eyes, then followed. They moved fast across the rooftops. Too fast for a normal Chunin escort. What's the deal, brat? Anko asked, eyes scanning their surroundings. There are ears everywhere. The clone replied, voice sharp and stripped of humor. Please wait until we reach the Hokage. That did it. Anko's playful mood vanished instantly. She didn't ask another question. When a Chunin told a special Jonin to watch what she said, it meant one thing. This is real. They entered the Hokage tower through the window. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked up sharply. Anko-san. Naruto-kun. His eyes flicked to the clone. Why are you not at the Chunin exams? Anko shrugged. Don't ask me. This is a clone, and he dragged me here saying it was urgent. The clone bowed. Forgive me, Hokage-sama. This is an emergency. Hiruzen's pipe paused mid-motion. The boss. Who? Hiruzen asked. The real Naruto. The clone continued evenly. Met with the One-Tails Jinchuriki this morning. Silence. Then. The what? Both Anko and the Hokage shouted in unison. The clone winced. Please let me finish. Questions at the end. Reluctantly, they held their tongues. He met Gaara, the clone continued, and learned of a planned invasion during the Chunin exams. Hiruzen's eyes widened, but he said nothing. Anko sat down slowly. Invasion? During my exam? The Ichibi has been preventing Gaara from sleeping, the clone said, threatening to take over. The Kyuubi intervened. The temperature in the room dropped. No, the clone added quickly, anticipating the storm. The Kyuubi cannot control me. We came to an agreement. Anko stared. Hiruzen's pipe slipped from his fingers. Oh, and he told me who my father was. The pipe hit the desk. Hard. Anko turned slowly toward Hiruzen, eyes dangerous. You knew, didn't you? Hiruzen swallowed. Naruto asked us to. Don't worry, Anko-chan, the clone cut in casually. My father is Minato Namikaze. Hiruzen slammed his forehead onto the desk. Anko froze. You say who did the what in the where? The clone shrugged. It's obvious when you think about it. Anko dragged a hand down her face. Kami, help me. Please, Hiruzen said finally, voice strained. Start from the beginning. The clone nodded and explained everything. The mask, the training, the fox, Hinata, Gaara. The room grew darker with every word. And then, the clone said quietly, Gaara showed me the Ichibi's seal. Anko leaned forward. Hiruzen's hands clenched. The QB is sealed behind reinforced barriers. A prison built to last. He paused. The Ichibi isn't. Both of them stiffened. It's a rusted cage in a decaying prison. Every time the beast lashes out, the bars shake. Gaara feels everything. The clone's jaw tightened. The seal is failing. Hiruzen closed his eyes. Our minds overlapped. The clone continued. We stood between both cages, Kyubi and Ichibi. That's when Gaara told me the truth. Anko swallowed. Which is, the invasion isn't just planned, the clone said. It's timed. And Gaara is meant to be the trigger. Silence crushed the room. And there's something else, the clone added. Hiruzen opened his eyes slowly. Go on. There's someone in the forest of death right now, the clone said. Not a genin. Not a proctor. Anko's grin vanished. A snake. Hiruzen stood. Anko, he said sharply. Already moving. She cracked her neck and smiled. This time without humor. Looks like my exam just got interesting. Far away, deep within the forest of death, Naruto Uzumaki stood between his teammates and a monster wearing human skin, unaware that the world had finally begun to move. Gaara staggered back, eyes darting between the two massive cages as the impossible space around them trembled. What is this? He demanded, sand lifting instinctively around his feet. What's happening? He raised his hand toward Naruto. The seal around Shikaku's prison flared weakly, and the sand surged. Stop, Gaara. Naruto's voice cut through the chaos, sharp and grounded. The moment he spoke, the seal behind the nine tails ignited in response. Heat rolled outward. Crimson chakra licked the air like flame. The sand hardened mid-flight, burned into glass, then shattered into harmless fragments. Shikaka shrieked, thrashing against her cage. You idiot. You dare challenge the QB's vessel inside his own domain. Gaara froze. QB, he whispered, staring at Naruto. The nine tails? You're a Jinchuriki too. A deep, mocking laugh echoed through the space. It seems you've grown dull, Shikaku, the nine tails sneered. You couldn't even sense me earlier. How pathetic. That's not fair. Shikaka screeched, slamming into the bars again. The impact sent Gaara crashing to his knees, clutching his head in agony. Naruto's jaw tightened. Hey, what's your problem? Focus, kid, the fox replied calmly. Look at the seal. Naruto obeyed. Up close, the kanji were sloppy, uneven, rushed, and with every strike Shikaku landed against it, the seal reacted, correcting itself, barely holding together. Naruto's eyes narrowed. It's badly done, he said slowly. Whoever sealed her knew the theory but didn't respect the process. It's incomplete. The fox hummed approvingly. My cage doesn't move an inch, the nine tails continued. Hers shakes every time she touches it. Freedom has been dangling in front of her eyes for years. Anyone would go mad. Naruto exhaled. So it's not entirely her fault. No, the fox said dryly. She's always been irritating. But this broke her. Naruto rubbed his face, then looked at Gaara. Oi, fox. How do we help him? Gaara stiffened, disbelief cutting through the pain. Help me? Why would you? Naruto knelt in front of him, gaze steady. Because I know what this feels like, he said quietly. Being beaten for existing. Feared. Used. Hated. And yeah, assassination attempts too. Gaara stared. You too? Even Shikako paused. It's our fate, Naruto went on. And there are others like us out there right now. We've got every reason to hate the world. Both demons snorted at that. But, Naruto added, extending his hand to Gaara, that doesn't mean we have to let it decide who we are. Gaara's voice trembled. I've only ever been a weapon. Suna will never see me as anything else. Naruto grabbed his collar and pulled him upright just enough to meet his eyes. Don't start that self-pity crap. I get enough of it when Sasuke broods. A dry chuckle echoed. Heh, Uchiha mood swings classic. Shut up. Naruto snapped, then softened. You won't know what people think unless you try. Your siblings already care. You're just too lost to see it. Gaara's breath hitched. Above them, the ceiling cracked. Light poured in. The prison stretched upward, the bars of Shikaku's cage reforming, thickening, becoming something closer to the Nine Tails domain. Shikaka blinked. This is better. You don't deserve it, the Nine-Tails muttered, lying down again. Gaara wiped at his eyes. How do you smile after all that? He asked. How do you keep going? Naruto smiled faintly. Because every day is a chance to prove them wrong, he said. I'm Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of the fourth, future Hokage. A hat dropped from the sky, landing crookedly on Naruto's head. Then another. A Kazekage's hat settled on Gaara's. Gaara blinked. What is this? A goal, Naruto said. You might want one. Helps keep you sane. Shikaka huffed. I just hate cages. Ah, the Nine-Tails teased. Is that why we stuffed you into the Three-Tails shell? Naruto deadpanned. You were always like this, huh? Rude is my personality, the fox replied. Gaara stared at them. Did I just hear a joke? Naruto spun, eyes wide. Gaara looked away. Maybe. The fox yawned. Enough bonding. You still have training to do. Naruto groaned. As the vision began to fade, Shikaku sighed. I'll behave, she muttered. This seal just drove me insane. Naruto smiled faintly. Welcome to the club. The memory shattered. Back in the forest of death, Naruto opened his eyes and faced the snake waiting in the shadows. Give it a rest, Kit. Down to business. Naruto barely had time to react before a calligraphy brush and a small vial of ink dropped into his hands. They felt real, heavy with intent rather than weight. All you need to do, the Nine-Tails continued calmly, is smooth the broken lines and add the markings I tell you. Shikaku recoiled, eyes wide. What are you doing? Naruto didn't look up as he knelt before the seal, brush hovering just above the rusted kanji. Fixing something that never should have been half done. Even though you're loud, ugly, and smell like wet sand, the fox added lazily. I'm going to make your imprisonment less unbearable. What you do after that is between you and your host. Shikaka bristled. You insolent. Sit, the fox snapped. The one tail shut up. Naruto exhaled slowly and began. The brush moved with care, not artistry, but precision. Each stroke tightened a fraying line, corrected an imbalance, reinforced intent that had never been respected. Sweat rolled down Naruto's temple. This wasn't chakra-heavy work, it was focus-heavy. One mistake would unravel everything. He felt the weight of it. So this is what Dad did. Good, the fox murmured. Now place your hand on the seal. Naruto did. Blue chakra flowed first, steady, controlled. The seal responded immediately, humming as the bars groaned and shifted. Then crimson chakra bled through, hotter, denser. The prison shuddered. The rust vanished. Bars thickened, lengthened, expanded. The cage didn't weaken, it stabilized. When it was finished, Shikaku's prison stood solid, reinforced, just slightly smaller than the Nine-Tails' own domain. Silence followed. Then, Naruto. Gaara's voice cracked. I can sleep, he said quietly, disbelief heavy in every syllable. Tears slid free before he could stop them. I haven't slept in years. Naruto placed a hand on his shoulder. Then let's go, he said simply. You've got an exam tomorrow. Gaara nodded, shoulders sagging, not in defeat, but relief. As the mental space began to dissolve, Naruto felt something settle in his chest. Not pride, not arrogance. Purpose. This, he realized, is what I want to do. Not prove people wrong. Not shout louder. Help someone stand when the world crushed them. That was Hokage worthy. Wait, Gaara said as the vision thinned. His voice steadied again, calm but serious. There's something you must know. Naruto turned. My father, the Kazekage, has allied with Otoge-cure. They plan to invade Konoha during the exams. I was meant to be the distraction. A pause. Orochimaru will assassinate the Hokage. Naruto's blood ran cold. Orochimaru, he repeated. The Sannin who went rogue before I was born? Yes. He's disguised as a grass shinobi. His true objective is unclear, but he is already inside the forest of death. The pieces clicked. Snake in the grass. Naruto clenched his fists. Konoha isn't ready for this. What will you do? Gaara asked quietly. Naruto didn't hesitate. I'll tell the Hokage, he said. But not yet. Once the exams begin, we let them believe everything is going to plan. No sudden moves. No panic. Gaara studied him, then nodded. That's clever. The fox laughed softly. He's learning. Naruto smirked. I'm a fox too, you know. As the mental space collapsed completely, Gaara's presence faded. Peaceful, finally resting. In flashback. Naruto's eyes snapped open in the forest of death. The stench of damp earth and rot filled his lungs. Across from him, yellow eyes gleamed from the shadows, amusement dripping from every movement of the pale man wearing a grass forehead protector. "Well," the snake said softly, "that expression tells me everything I need to know." Naruto stepped forward, placing himself squarely between the monster and his teammates. Behind him, Sasuke and Sakura felt it, the shift. Whatever Naruto had become over the past 2 days, it was no longer pretending, and whatever stood before them was not part of the exam. Silence crushed the Hokage's office. Hiruzen Sarutobi sat rigid, fingers steepled beneath his chin, eyes fixed on nothing at all. The weight of Naruto's revelation pressed down on him heavier than any report he'd received in years. Orochimaru and the Kazekage. A coup disguised as diplomacy. A classic snake's move, he thought grimly. Suna would never risk this unless cornered. Orochimaru must be holding something over them. Naruto's plan echoed in his mind. Let the exams proceed. Prepare quietly. Don't spook the prey. Troublesome. Dangerous. Correct. Anko, meanwhile, hadn't spoken. Her gaze was locked to the floor, jaw tight, hands gripping the armrests hard enough to creak. Memories clawed their way up from a place she'd buried long ago. 8 years old. Alone. And stupid enough to believe him. Naruto's clone turned toward her, voice gentle. "Anko-chan, I know how you must feel. That pain." She snapped. "How the hell would you know?" She snarled, eyes blazing. "I was betrayed by that snake bastard. I was an orphan. He was the only one who acted like he cared. What do you know about pain?" The words landed. The clone didn't shout back. It simply looked at her. And then, poof. The clone dispersed. Anko froze. The realization hit like a fist to the gut. "Shit," she whispered. Hiruzen spoke quietly. "Anko, Naruto is not one to." "Stop," she cut in, voice rough. "I screwed up." She stood, bowing deeply. "I'll apologize. As soon as he reaches the tower." Hiruzen nodded, eyes dark. "You may not have that long. If Orochimaru is inside the forest of death, he cannot be allowed free movement." He rose from his chair. "I want covert AMBU units deployed immediately. Surveillance only, for now." Anko's grin returned, sharp and dangerous. "He won't slip past me again." Forest of death. Branches blurred past as Team 7 moved through the canopy in heavy silence. Naruto didn't speak, didn't joke, didn't even look at them. Sasuke watched him from the corner of his eye, unease gnawing at his pride. Naruto wasn't rising to his insults anymore, wasn't even acknowledging him. Did we do something? The thought came unbidden. That bothered him more than he'd ever admit. Sakura's thoughts were louder and uglier. What's his problem now? Acting like we don't exist. She didn't realize how much she'd relied on Naruto's attention, on knowing someone would be there when Sasuke wasn't. Naruto dropped suddenly into a clearing. Sasuke and Sakura followed instinctively. "What now?" Sasuke asked, tension but not contempt in his voice. "Go ahead," Naruto said. Sakura frowned. "What?" She saw his fists clenched, his shoulders shaking. "Naruto," she whispered. "What's wrong?" "Just go," he snapped, voice trembling, edged with something dark. Sasuke felt it then. Killing intent, raw, unfocused. He grabbed Sakura's wrist. "We're leaving." They vanished into the trees. Sakura looked back once. Naruto stood alone, hair shadowing his face. Tears hit the ground. Slow, silent. When they were gone, Naruto turned his head slightly. "I know you're there," he said bitterly. "Come out. Do whatever you came to do." A figure dropped into the clearing. Amazing, a voice boomed. "To sense us so clearly, your flames of youth must burn fiercely." Naruto didn't flinch. "Who are you?" "I am Rock Lee," the boy declared proudly. 2 others landed beside him. "I'm Tenten," the girl said warmly. "And that's Neji." Neji didn't look at Naruto. Sasuke went ahead. "There's no reason to linger with fodder." Naruto's brow twitched. "Fodder? That is most unyouthful, Neji-kun." Lee protested. Naruto exhaled once, slow and controlled. Uzumaki Naruto. He formed seals. Clones exploded into existence around the clearing. Team Guy leapt back instantly, weapons drawn. "Hey," Tenten protested. "We didn't come here to fight." Naruto didn't answer. Neji's eyes narrowed. Byakugan flared. "Neji," Tenten whispered. Neji raised a finger to his lips. Naruto nodded grimly. We're surrounded. From the shadows, branches shifted. Leaves rustled where no wind blew. And somewhere nearby, a snake smiled. Team 8 moved fast. They didn't rush blindly, but they didn't linger either, skirting danger, keeping to the canopy, choosing routes that minimize contact. Their goal was simple: reach the tower first, then hunt for the opposing scroll. When they finally dropped into a small clearing, Hinata activated her Byakugan immediately. She scanned once, twice, then nodded. Clear. Kiba didn't even pretend to keep composure. He flopped onto his back with a groan, Akamaru instantly climbing onto his chest. Man, I'm dead, he laughed. We haven't moved like that since the day Kurenai-sensei caught us peeking at the hot springs. Shino adjusted his glasses. Correction. She caught you peeking. Kiba waved him off. But Shino's attention shifted. Hinata hadn't relaxed. She stood perfectly still at the edge of the clearing, feet set, posture disciplined. One hand rose before her face, fingers locked into a single seal Shino hadn't seen her use before. His Kikeichu stirred. Unsettled. Hinata. Shino said carefully, rising to his feet. What is it you are about to do? Kiba rolled onto an elbow. You okay? The wind changed. Leaves lifted from the forest floor, circling Hinata slowly at first, then faster. She extended both arms outward. Shino's insects grew agitated, crawling beneath his coat. A defensive and offensive field, he murmured. One that can disrupt swarm-based techniques. Hinata's eyes snapped open. Byakugan flared. Her arms vanished into motion. The leaves were shredded midair, reduced to fragments so fine they barely touched the ground. The sound wasn't loud, but it was violent, like flesh tearing. Hinata's face twisted with effort. Sweat streamed down her cheeks as her movements began to slow. Then she stopped. She dropped to her knees, breathing hard. Still not enough. I won't be able to face Niji like this. Hinata, Kiba breathed. What the hell was that? That technique, Shino said quietly. I have never encountered its like. Did you develop it yourself? Yes, Hinata replied, forcing air into her lungs. It's meant to counter swarm tactics and the 64 palms. She lowered her head. I've been working on it for months, but I neglected my training. It should be complete by now. But you destroyed everything around you. Kiba exclaimed. That was insane. Lower your voice, Hinata said sharply as she sat back. The motion made Kiba yelp and clamp a hand over his nose. Shino turned away slightly, analyzing. Her chakra expenditure at the start had been minimal. 2 blades, razor-thin streams, rotating at extreme speed. Efficient. Precise. The flaw wasn't power. It was endurance. Hinata, Shino said at last. The effectiveness of that technique far outweighs its current duration. She nodded. That's kind of you, Shino-kun. But my goal is to move while maintaining it. Until then, I'm behind. Shino had no argument. She was their front line, and she was pushing herself far harder than before. That worried him. Hinata, he said bluntly, what caused this change? Silence. Kiba sighed, already guessing. Naruto. Hinata stiffened. How would you know that? She asked, too quickly. Kiba shrugged. Everyone knows. Plus, you two were the last ones in the academy after the written exam. Shino turned to face her fully. What happened? Hinata's composure cracked. Since when? She snapped. Did my personal life concern you? Both boys froze. She immediately looked away, fists clenched. I'm sorry, she said quietly. But it's not your business. Naruto-kun and I have settled things. Shino studied her for a long moment, then nodded. As you wish. He ended the conversation there. Kiba watched her walk to the far edge of the clearing, shoulders rigid, distance deliberately chosen. She didn't want help. She wanted proof. I won't be weak, Hinata thought. Not for anyone. Not anymore. Kiba scratched the back of his head, looking between his teammates. Yeah, he muttered. This is going to be a long day. Above them, the forest creaked, and unseen eyes watched all of them, patiently. This is why we don't let you lead missions. The boy with short black hair and rectangular glasses sighed as he pushed them up his nose, scanning the forest with mild irritation. Well, excuse me. The turquoise-haired girl shot back, hands on her hips. I didn't expect us to get lost by just going forward. Both of you shut up, the third voice muttered lazily. I'm trying to sleep. He lay sprawled across a thick branch, white shirt hanging loose beneath a cropped blue jacket. When he cracked one eye open, the iris flashed yellow, pupils slit like a predator's. Train, the glasses boy groaned. Do you have to do the creepy eye thing? Shut it, Yuri. Train yawned, eyes fading back to normal. The turquoise-haired girl collapsed onto her back with a groan. At this rate, I won't get any ramen today, she whined as her stomach growled loudly. Both boys' sweat dropped. Phew, Yuryu said dryly. You ate 12 bowls before we even entered the forest. Yeah, Train added. Ichiraku practically worshipped you. Said it was impressive there's someone who eats as much as that kid. Naruto right. Fu's stomach growled again. Feed me. Yuryu suddenly stiffened. Quiet. In a heartbeat, he vanished into the brush. Train and Fu followed instinctively. Seconds later, a team dropped into the clearing they'd just vacated. Blonde. Loud posture. Tense shoulders. Fu peeked through the leaves. What's up with him? No answer. She turned. Her heart dropped. Yuryu and Train were already bound, gagged, and held at kunai point by enemy ninja. Back in the clearing, Naruto stood with Team Guy, the air tight with tension. Tintin's eyes flicked around rapidly. When you said surrounded, you weren't exaggerating. Naruto snapped a kunai to his left. Most likely shadow clones. The ground erupted where it landed. Naruto leapt back, eyes narrowing. That's not Genin-level chakra control. Help! A girl's voice tore through the forest. Naruto froze. That split second was all the enemy needed. The grass ninja dropped from the trees, 3 of them, only to dissolve into smoke the moment they landed. Clones. Tintin smirked. Well, that simplifies things. A real grass ninja shoved 3 captives into the clearing. Fu hit the ground hard, hissing in pain. Naruto's eyes locked onto her wrist. A wasp-like stinger jutted from her skin. He took a step back. Wow, he said lightly. You guys really messed up. Team Guy blinked at his tone. So you felt it too? The fox murmured. Naruto's lips twitched. But let's not let her have all the fun. Hey Lee, Naruto called out. But I can take out more of them than you in 5 minutes. Lee's eyes ignited. How youthful. I accept. If I lose, I shall do 1,000 curls. And if I fail, a metal mace cracked into the back of his skull. Like hell you will, Tenten roared. The grass ninja laughed. They're ignoring us. A fatal mistake, their leader hissed through a gas mask. Naruto knelt beside Fu. You okay? She blinked. How do you know my name? Shichibi, Naruto replied casually. He and the Kyuubi know each other. Her eyes widened. So you're like me. Yeah. Before more could be said, clones rushed in. Naruto and Fu moved back to back. A spark rippled through them. Hot, instinctive. That was weird, they both thought. The fox cackled. Fu stepped forward first. Her body went loose, then exploded into motion. Punch, elbow, kick, knee. The clone convulsed, never even dispersing until her final spinning kick shattered it into smoke. Her eyes were empty, focused. Naruto felt a twist in his chest. She's locked everything away. Team Guy tore through the rest. Lee was a blur. Tintin's twin blades danced like silver fire. Niji moved with surgical precision, each strike devastating. Naruto clenched his fist. They were serious long before I was. Naruto. Fu slammed into him just as a massive shadow passed overhead. A snake, huge, monstrous, crashed into the clearing, fangs burying into the earth. Naruto snarled. And then he saw it. One grass ninja breaking away, following Sasuke's trail. Orochimaru. Tintin, Naruto said sharply. You two handle the snake, she replied instantly. We'll clean up here. No sweat. Fu smirked. You just spaced out. Oh, shut up. They charged. The snake struck. Naruto substituted, appearing midair. Fu leapt onto the serpent's skull and launched upward. Naruto caught her hand, spinning and hurling her higher. She tossed a kunai. Naruto substituted again. Now they were above the canopy. Wind screamed. Fire roared. Futon, Kaze Yari. Katon, Ryusei Aki. Wind compressed. Fire collapsed inward. The two techniques merged and felt like judgment. The explosion ripped through the forest, the snake annihilated in a storm of flame and pressure. Naruto and Fu landed hard, breathing fast, grinning. Somewhere deeper in the forest, a snake laughed softly and followed Sasuke's scent. The world snapped back into place. Naruto staggered forward as his consciousness slammed back into his body, lungs burning as if he'd been holding his breath for too long. Leaves rushed past his vision, motion, speed, urgency. Shit. The forest felt wrong. Not just dangerous, hungry. Fu landed beside him without a sound, knees bending smoothly as if gravity had decided to go easy on her. For someone who joked and laughed as much as she did, her eyes were sharp now, focused, alert. You feel it getting worse too, right? She asked quietly. Naruto nodded. Yeah. Whatever's ahead, it's not just strong. It's deliberate. They slowed slightly, moving through the canopy instead of crashing through it. Naruto raised a hand, signaling a halt. Fu obeyed instantly. That alone made Naruto tense. She hadn't questioned him, hadn't teased him. She trusted him. Below them, the forest floor was torn apart. Trees snapped clean through. Bark peeled like flesh. The ground itself looked scarred, long trenches carved into the earth by something massive and violent. Naruto swallowed. This wasn't a fight, he murmured. This was a message. Fu crouched beside him, fingers brushing the gouged soil. Something chased them. Slowly, Naruto closed his eyes for a fraction of a second. Sasuke. Sakura. The fox stirred uneasily. Kit. Whatever that snake is doing, it's accelerating. He's not playing anymore. Naruto opened his eyes, jaw set. Then neither am I. They moved again, faster now, but quieter. Naruto sent 2 shadow clones ahead, their chakra suppressed to a whisper. Seconds later, the feedback hit him. Pain. Fear. Blood. Naruto's breath hitched. Fu caught it instantly. What did you see? Before he could answer, a scream ripped through the forest. Sakura's voice. Raw. Panicked. Naruto vanished. He didn't think. Didn't plan. Didn't calculate. He moved. Branches shattered as he burst through the canopy, hitting the ground hard and rolling to his feet. The clearing ahead looked like a nightmare painted in green and red. Sakura was backed against a tree, shaking, kunai clenched in white-knuckled hands. Sasuke knelt several meters away, motionless. A dark mark crawled across his neck like living ink. And standing between them, a grass ninja, tall, unmoving, watching. Naruto felt it then. That presence. Cold. Familiar. Ancient. Orochimaru, he growled. The man slowly turned. A smile stretched across his face, but it wasn't human. Oh, the grass ninja purred. You sense me faster than expected. Fu landed beside Naruto, wings half-formed before she forced them back. Her chakra flared dangerously. Naruto stepped forward, placing himself between her and Sasuke without thinking. Back away from him, Naruto said, voice low. This ends now. Orochimaru's eyes gleamed. Fascinating, he whispered. 2 vessels, and neither broken. He tilted his head, tongue flicking across his lips. This exam, he continued softly, just became far more interesting. The curse mark on Sasuke's neck pulsed. Sasuke screamed. And deep within Naruto's soul, the Kyuubi bared its teeth. Kit, if he takes one more step. Naruto clenched his fists. Wind began to scream. Fire answered. And somewhere above them, unseen, Imbu masks watched silently. Naruto inhaled slowly. Not for calm. For control. The air tasted wrong. Sour. Rotten. Like a grave disturbed too early. Sasuke stood inches from him. Curse mark pulsing like a living thing. Veins standing out beneath his skin. That chakra wasn't his. It was borrowed. Poisoned. And it was screaming. Move. Sasuke repeated, voice low and thrilled. I'm not asking. Naruto didn't budge. Behind them, Sakura clutched the tree, shaking. The sound ninja had stopped laughing. Even they understood instinctively that whatever came next wasn't meant for Jin and eyes. You're not thinking, Naruto said evenly. That thing on your neck isn't power. It's a leash. Sasuke's eye twitched. You don't know anything about power, he hissed. You've always been behind me. Behind everyone. Naruto's red eyes softened, not with weakness, but with certainty. You're wrong, he said. I know exactly what it is. He stepped closer. It whispers. It tells you that you're special. That pain means progress. That killing will make the emptiness go away. The curse mark flared violently. Sasuke staggered half a step back, clutching his neck. How would you? Because I hear it too, Naruto replied quietly. Silence. Fu's breath caught. Shikamaru, hidden beyond the trees, narrowed his eyes. Troublesome, so that's what this is. Sasuke laughed suddenly, sharp, cracked. So what, he snarled. You think that makes us the same? No, Naruto answered. It means I know how this ends if you keep going. Sasuke's gaze flicked to the sound ninja. Fear, hatred, hunger all tangled together. I need this, Sasuke said. I need something. Naruto's jaw tightened. No, he said firmly. You need to live long enough to choose. Then he moved. Not fast, not flashy. He simply stepped in and struck. A sharp chop to Sasuke's collarbone disrupted the chakra flow. Sasuke gasped, curse mark stuttering. Naruto followed instantly. Pivot, sweep, palm strike to the sternum. Sasuke flew back, skidding across the dirt. What? Sokka shouted. Naruto didn't look at them. Sakura, he said calmly, without turning. Take Sasuke. Get him out of here. Now. I can't, she stammered. Yes, you can, Naruto said, finally glancing back. His eyes were no longer feral, just steady. Trust me. Something in his voice snapped her out of it. She ran. As Sakura dragged Sasuke toward the trees, the sound ninja reacted too late. After them, Dosa barked. They didn't get 2 steps. A blur of turquoise slammed into the clearing. Nope, Foot chirped and kicked Dosa square in the chest, sending him crashing into a tree. Guess it's our turn, she added, eyes glowing faintly. Naruto exhaled, rolling his shoulders. Kin, he said without looking away from the remaining 2. Last chance. Walk away. Kin's hands trembled. She remembered his eyes. The way the wind bent around him. She swallowed hard. Fall back, she shouted suddenly. Now, Sokka cursed, but Dosu grabbed his arm. Smoke bombs hit the ground. When the haze cleared, they were gone. The clearing fell silent except for labored breathing. Naruto let the red fade from his eyes. His knees almost buckled, but he caught himself. Fu stepped beside him instantly. You okay? She asked softly. Yeah, he said, though his voice was hoarse. Just sick of stopping people from destroying themselves. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Good, she said. Because if you hadn't, I don't think he would have come back from that. Naruto looked toward the trees where Sakura had fled. Neither did he. High above the clearing, hidden from sight, a pale figure watched.